The good old clap, take one.
That's right.
How many of you knew what you wanted to be when you were 7 years old? I did. I wanted to be a world champion.
Hey, is there honesty involved in this podcast? Can we be honest?
You can shut your lips.
And then I just say, put them up, what? Let's go.
He's like, you look too pretty on the wave. Get ugly.
We can talk about DMT if you want.
I thought you were boxing.
All right, the lineup is back. We are here at the Surf Ranch Pro presented by 805 Beer, and we're very fortunate to not only have 3 805 ambassadors, but 3 people with genuinely interesting stories in the surfing world here with us today. We have former World Tour surfer and world title contender, Santa Barbara's Connor Coffin. We have free surfing virtuoso, the Central Coast's Nate Tyler, and we have international skate icon, San Clemente's Grayson Fletcher. Guys, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for the 805s, and cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers, boys.
Yeah, boys.
I'll get you down there too.
Yeah.
Might as well.
Thanks for having us, Dave.
Oh my God. So we're here at the event. Connor, you've been here a few times before. You know, Nate and Grayson, this is kind of one of your first times here. What have been your impressions of the place so far?
It was insane. I've never seen anything like it. It might be kind of a long story. I'll try to make it quick.
Speak as long as you want.
All right, perfect. Me and Nate showed up. They're like, oh, get your wetsuits on. It's like 15 minutes till we're supposed to catch our wave. And I was like, 15 minutes? It's not a long time. Like, or that's not, whatever, anyways.
Like we had
whatever. Lag a little bit, then like probably like 8 minutes is left. I'll put my wetsuit on now. Go out, start talking to people. We end up talking to Kelly Slater and, name drop.
Yeah, who's he?
Anyways, we talk at that guy.
You're in a safe place.
And yeah, exactly. We're cruising, talking. And then I just hear on the walkie-talkie, 30 seconds till their wave's up. Oh shit, we didn't even know who's going first. We didn't know right or left. Raymana and Matt pull up on the ski. We're like, all right, hop on. So, before that, Slater was like trying to put my wetsuit top flap over me. I was like, oh yeah, I forgot that. Like put it on, like.
And he was telling you where and how to surf on the wave, which
and then
seemed like a lot.
It was a lot of
all of our
information.
senses were
Within
firing.
30 seconds.
Yeah.
Oh, within like a very hectic 30 seconds.
And then there's like 2 skis, but they want us both on one ski. And I'm like, okay, whatever. Like, didn't even get the board under my leg, was just holding my board. And then Slater's like, oh, put your leash on, brah. And I was like, started laughing. I was like, oh. And then Raymana just jumps, gets off get off the ski. I'm like putting my leash on. He's like, paddle for the flag. I'm like, what flag? He's like, the red one. I'm like, oh, like put my leash on. He's like still yelling. I was like, shit. Paddle over there. I'm like, oh, like, is it a right or a left? He's like, it's a right. And I was like, which way? And he's like, blah, blah. I was like, okay, like, where do I paddle? You know, just tell me where to paddle. And anyways, I look behind me and the wave's coming already. I was like, oh shit. And then, yeah, that was that. Did a turn, and then I was like, okay, Kelly said it's not gonna barrel the first section really because it's the first wave, and then Raymond was like, pull in, lower. I'm like stalling, got too deep, I think. I don't know what happened, lip land, I don't know what happened. And then Nate ripped it, and he'll tell you about that.
No, another funny thing is once that wave gobbled Grayson was just doing what he was told. The wave gobbled him, and then I'm sitting there on the back with Raymana. I've never met him. And he's like,
it's an intimate first encounter.
Super intimate, sure. Just like a nice hug. And he instantly, he like watched the path. He knows. You can tell he just knows.
Right.
And but he watched what was gonna happen to Grayson. He's like, get ready. He's like, do a step off, and screaming at me. I was like, Raymana, I've never actually done a step off. He's like, oh, it's okay then, buddy. And he just went, and we just watched that wave. Like, because it was the first wave of the morning.
It was all buttery.
Yeah, so that when it hits the inside, it like, I've never seen a wave. Well, the actual lip, when it fell, it was like perfect pool water.
Right.
It looked fake.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. Anyways, it was really funny because then he's like, oh, you're okay. And then like that wave dissipated or whatnot, and then he goes, he's like, okay, buddy, go to the green flag. And I was like, okay, sweet. And I jump off, like thinking that he was kind of gonna trail me also,
right.
like we just trailed Grayson.
Yeah.
And And all he said was go to the green flag. And it was my first wave, just like it was Grayson's first wave, first time ever here. And it was just the most amazing sight because it was such chaos right as the event was starting that he dropped me and he goes, "You're on your own, buddy." And just like motored off and went over to pick up Kelly and deal with the broadcast. And I was like, what way do I paddle? Like same thing as, so we had opposite interactions with it because he kind of got like the fire start of just like thrown right into it. And then I had the 5 minutes of or whatever the regeneration time is.
Nothing.
To sit there and go,
Think about it.
okay, what am I doing? Where am I going? And then like randomly like a group of friends happened to be right where the left starts. And they all started screaming at me and the whole world, my world caved in.
Helpful.
My tiny brain just imploded. I was like, oh my God.
I heard him scream for you, and I saw you like shake it off. He like got under the water, like ooh, shake his hair off.
So
well, here's a good question,
amazing,
right?
but-
Because that was, you guys caught those waves like a few minutes before Kelly has singlet on. He's surfing in the contest.
Yeah.
There's that movie. Shoot, I screwed up now. Daniel Plainview, right? He goes, "I've got a competition in me. I want no one else to succeed." Do you think he was giving you legitimate advice, or he's like, "Nope, you're going down"?
First
In the
question
mode.
though, was his first wave his contest wave?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, so he probably had a lot of pressure and just was like
Yeah.
talking to talk.
Totally.
Nervous talking.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think he was giving me solid information. It just
I think it was genuine.
Yeah, so it's just the first. I was hearing two different parts, Kelly's, and then I was on the wave, and then I was hearing Raymana's.
Yeah,
and
he
they were
got mixed
opposite.
signals.
No, they're opposite.
They were opposite,
Well,
yeah.
well, Kelly was telling me that the wave's not going to barrel. The first section is not really going to be a barrel because it's the first one. He's like, the second section will be super hollow, and then Raymana's like, Paulin!
It is amazing, right? Because you see all the content on social media and stuff, but then when you come here for the first time, I always remember, I'm like, I cannot believe how big this is.
Yeah.
I cannot believe someone let someone else build this thing. It is unbelievable. Connor, you've competed here before. You know, what were your impressions like today and watching the CT surfers compete out here? Like, do you feel like the level's gone up? Because I feel like, just as an observer, we've ran a bunch of different events here, exhibitions, CT events. Every time we run one, it feels like people are getting a little less tentative, a little less conservative, and a little more aggressive.
I don't know. I honestly didn't watch a whole lot very closely because I got headlocked into lots of conversations today. So I didn't get to watch everyone's waves, but I definitely think it's still one of those things. I mean, there's certain guys that have surfed this place and girls way more than other men and women have.
Sure.
So I think that really plays a huge advantage because, like you said, that each time you come back, you kind of know what's going to happen on the wave a little bit more, so you know where you could probably do something that you didn't do last time, or maybe something you tried a few times last time that you wanted to do that next time. Because definitely I felt that way every time I came back. I was like, oh, okay, got a little better after a few waves, you know?
Yeah.
Where when a few years ago, though, we used to get a lot of practice time, and now I don't think that you probably get as many waves, right, before the contest, because I don't know how many waves the guys got. Or
I was gonna ask you, like, how many waves did you used to get? Like, because that was, it was like so scary what Grayson and I got this morning, like in the pressure cooker style. I was like, did you guys used to get?
It's just one wave, and then the world title's on one.
Way back
They get a few.
when it first started, I scored a couple of days where there was like 4 of us, and you couldn't walk. You surfed so much.
Yeah.
Like it was too much. You needed more people.
And then
But then towards the end, it was
contest.
like maybe before the contest, you only get like 10 waves or something.
Yeah.
8 waves maybe.
And how'd your legs feel during the heat?
Torched.
After that, just
torched.
dusted off.
Yeah.
It is a great point, though, because people bring it up quite a lot. They're like, man, for the rookies, it's so hard because,
it's
like,
so-
Kelly lives here, right?
Yeah.
And there's other surfers who have come up here either through years of competing or sponsorship relationships where they've surfed it a lot.
Yeah.
I think it's not too dissimilar to, like, almost any other venue. Like, there's people who live at J-Bay, right? Or there's people who live at Pipeline, and they have that local advantage. You know, Nate, we were talking before, like, you're a Central Coast guy. I actually think you might be one of the closest residing surfers to this facility. You might be in line for a local wild card at some point.
I really would never want that or know what to do with it. But yeah, I think technically I am the closest living, miles
crow
wise
flies.
or whatever.
Sure.
Yeah. I mean, there's a bunch of us, but yeah, it is pretty strange. That's why today there was I don't know. I came in late last night and they let me camp, and I was like, I walked up at, I think it was like 10:30 when I got here, and they were running, all those guys were practicing.
Yeah, under the lights.
And it was just like full, I just felt like a little kid at Disneyland, like just like, oh my God, this is so amazing to see. And it was just the coolest first impression because it was nighttime and the pool was just glowing. It was so amazing. And
That's cool.
I don't know, it just got me very excited. And then I went to bed and I woke up at 3 and it was like my world caved in. I was like, oh my God, I know exactly what's gonna happen tomorrow. Like, Grayson and I are gonna have to get a wave in front of everyone.
Yeah.
And so I was pretty sleepless. And then one other funny story that I was gonna say, that I didn't even let Grayson in on it till afterwards, but when we showed up, we were such like oddballs, you know, like non-athletes.
We got
but
kicked out of the room.
yeah, so they
Where's your wristband, dude?
yeah, so we like they saw us just standing around hopeless, and they're like, why don't you guys go in here and change? And they put us in like the judging room next to the head judges. And I randomly have a really good friend that's a judge, and she walked over and she's like, hey, I saw your name on the docket to get a wave. And I was like, oh, cool. And she's like, yeah, I was like, have you gotten a couple waves? Is it fun? She's like, yeah, it's fun. I got a wave back in 2017 or 2018 or whatever. I was like, wait a minute, like you don't get waves? So I just instantly, like it's settled in way more.
The rarity is like, oh no.
Yeah. But like, they're not even getting waves that much because it's just,
it's a unique
It's
thing.
gnarly.
Yeah.
It was gnarly for us, especially like
Yeah.
I was like not on the contest, skateboarder,
Yeah.
surfing right before Kelly at his own wave pool.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Your guys' spot, like first one on the first wave. I was just like, I'm not honored enough to surf the first wave of the day. Like,
Yeah.
oh,
No pressure.
It was fun.
but
though.
it was insane fun though. Yeah,
Yeah, it was
super
an
cool.
incredible opportunity.
It just was a lot of pressure. Like, whoa.
Well-
Nate ripped it though. I want to say that one more time. Nate
Oh yeah.
ripped it up.
We've got video evidence. It's all good.
I was
I don't
psyched.
feel like
I
that, but
was sitting there
thank
after
you.
my wave. I was like, shit. And then I was watching Nate. I was like, all right, that's super cool though to watch. It was cool.
So this August at the US Open, we are premiering a film, Convergence by Perry Gergshaw. The three of you feature in the film, and you know, one of the things that struck me about just some of the advanced materials is, since time immemorial, you know, the idea of family, both biological family or found family, is such a strong thing in surfers. You know, you got fathers and sons, mothers and sons, and mothers and daughters, and fathers and daughters and siblings, and each of you has such a unique relationship with your own family as it pertains to your own careers, whether it's surfing or skating or both. And I want to hear a little bit about how this project came to be, working with Perry, working on Convergence. And you know, Grayson, you obviously come from such an important dynasty in sports, you know, both the Fletchers and the Hoffmans. And I'm curious, at 32 years young, if working on this project kind of unlock some new stuff for you around the idea of family and the idea of who you are, right, as a skater and a surfer.
Yeah, it's really rad actually. Like, so I knew Connor from riding on Hurley 13, 12
Pretty
years
long
ago.
time ago, yeah.
And so like
Solid,
I
yeah.
made some friends. I made friends with all the Hurley guys. Like stayed at the Hurley house in Hawaii, whatever, blah blah. Down the road on 805, 6 stoked, like super rad team already, you know. Nate on it, got like rodeo guy, you know, just cool stuff like mechanic, dirt bike guys. Like, anyways, like, oh yeah, we're thinking about putting Connor Coffin on the team. I was like, oh no way! I got super stoked. Yeah, get him on there. Whatever, blah blah blah. And then we were talking about it, like, oh, hopefully one day we could go on like a sick trip. And then here we are now for this edit. We were waiting for waves, so like we didn't get to do our surf trip yet, but we've all filmed like some stuff individually, and then we're actually leaving for our trip tomorrow to go get some waves, go cruise, hang with each other, and have some good times, and then hopefully hit a couple skate parks around there too. And yeah, I'm super stoked. Like, I don't know Nate that well, but I'm getting to know him, which is cool. He seems super rad.
We had a good crash course this morning.
Yeah, exactly.
Real
That was
landing on the
perfect.
jet ski.
And then-
Forged in the fire, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
and I've known Connor, so I'm like super stoked that we get to be a part of the same team together.
it's a really rad
Yeah.
thing when you have a program like, and it's not the only one obviously, but like 805 Beer, as you mentioned, it's not just surfers or even in a lot of cases like one type of surfer. It's like there's all these interesting people and there's this intersection of commonality, you know, whether it's a story or just a passion or whatever. And I often find that like the best kind of, you know, friction kind of moves experience and content forward. It's a really, really cool thing. And, you know, Nate, you are so synonymous with the Central Coast, and, you know, your own relationship with your dad and your family and surfing and your profession. It's so interesting as someone who's come from where they've come in terms of this film. And, you know, when you heard about it and you've worked with Perry before, what were your initial thoughts in terms of working on Convergence?
Well, I think that this film, like what it's gotten to be, has grown. It's kind of been an evolution of an idea that Perry and I had a couple years ago when we spoke with the 805 people and kind of, I guess you'd call it, pitched them on it and whatnot. Just an idea for a project, and it was kind of art-based and based on a lot heavily on me. And I've just sort of taken a step back from like the real grind of surfing, and so I just sort of let it go away in a weird sense. But then it was really cool that it ended up coming back, and they had the idea to like have us all three come together, because then there's 3 stories to tell, and it just makes a lot more sense in the you know, the end outcome would be just a way more dynamic film than
100%.
what we were originally planning. So it's really cool to see the evolution of what it is.
Totally. And, you know, Connor, like, you were one of the most celebrated style master free surfers of your generation, you know, coming up, and you advanced, you made it onto the tour, and I remember you and I had like a very, very early podcast in an Airstream here a few years ago.
I was one of the first ones,
You were one of the guinea
No
pigs,
way.
man. Yeah.
That's
And we were
amazing.
catching up and we were just feeling our way out, and I'm like, man, like, why are you on tour? Do you want to win a world title, this and that? And you were like, no, it's not. I don't think about it. I just want to surf my best. And flash forward a couple of years, you're in an event competing for the world title at the Rip Curl WSL finals, you know, just because you're kind of being true to yourself, right? And you're like, no, this is how I surf. And, you know, with the pandemic and people's careers evolving, it feels like this film hit you at a really unique time too in your career. And you know, what were your sort of initial experiences talking about it, meeting these guys and working on the film?
Yeah, I guess I've always been really into a lot of different aspects of the surf world, you know.
Yeah.
Like I just loved surfing so much from such a young age, and so, you know, and then growing up watching like Bobby and Dane and Tom and stuff, you know, and those guys all had gone through the tour, and so it kind of became a dream of mine to make it onto the tour. And having that experience now, like I guess I have been doing it and focused on it for so long that I've been craving maybe doing some other projects and having some other experiences that I haven't had time for in a pretty long time, which kind of came at a perfect time with me falling off tour last year, I think it was. It feels like it's
Time
been a
is
long
a flat
time.
circle, don't
Oh
worry about
man,
it.
yeah. So just, I guess what intrigues me the most is how surfing can bring together so many different people from so many different walks of life. And like Grayson said, I've known him for a really long time. Like Nate, I met Nate forever ago, and we have a lot of mutual friends. I've never spent a ton of time together, but used to get
Yeah,
to
we
surf
had a-
together. We had
we
a
had a
couple
good
trips
bonding
together.
Indo trip,
Yeah,
yeah.
super fun Indo
That was
trip.
a deep Indo trip.
Yeah, always looked up
Really
to,
got
like,
to know people on that trip.
Nate's accomplishments in the free surfing world and stuff. So, you know, I love doing fun shit with good people, and 805's been a really cool opportunity to do that and bringing us together to get to do a project like this that Nate kind of was the brainchild with Perry behind. It's just been the little bit that we've gotten to do already has been so fun, and psyched to go on our trip. And yeah, I just think it's cool. I mean, I guess the Convergence title, we're all different, but surfing is what kind of the glue, I guess, that we can all come together, and like that's our one thing that we all have in common, plus all these other things and passions that maybe are more particular to each of us. But like, you know, I know family is super important to all of us, and you know, like art and for Grayson and Nate, like music for me. So I think we each have a lot of interests besides just surfing that'll be kind of cool to see come together in this film, hopefully.
Stoked, yeah. And we're going to dig into a little bit more of each of your respective career arcs in the upcoming segment. We're going to take a quick break to get a word in from our sponsors, and we'll be right back.
Perfect.
All right, coming back from break. All right, we're back here. We're with the lineup. We're with Connor Coffin, Nate Tyler, and Grayson Fletcher. We're here with some 805s. It's been delicious. Guys, we've been talking about this film Convergence, which is coming out August 3rd by Perry Gerkshaw. It's going to premiere at the US Open. You guys come from such unique backgrounds. I know we touched on it a little bit before, but Grayson, starting with you, again, you come from one of the most dynastically appreciated families in surfing and skating, right? The Fletchers and the Hoffmans. Growing up for you must have been an experience, right? Because there's the weight of expectation, there's probably the weight of expectation you put on yourself. How did you navigate that part of your life to get to where you are today, just in terms of feeling comfortable with who you are and what you do for a living?
Yeah, it's funny. Growing up, my grandpa was gnarly. First off, I'm sure he was gnarly with my dad, but so I've heard. Basically, get the fuck out there. That's what my grandpa would say, pretty much. So like, he raised me going on snowboard trips since a little kid. Like, he just took me up to the top of the mountain for the first time. So, all right, just go down the mountain, like pretty much pointed straight. And he put a rope around me, and he went down with me. And I didn't know how to turn, I didn't know how to snowboard, I didn't know how to do anything. I think I was 6, and he just
like a puppeteer.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
He just did one of these shimmy down the mountain with me, like 1 or 2 times, and then he took me up the gondola and just had me go down that, and then I was hitting the moguls and just went flipping down the hill. So that was snowboarding. I was like, okay, I could do it. Yeah. Kind of like cool, whatever, got that. We would go up trips, like skate trips up the coast of Northern California a lot. We'd skate on the way up and on the skate parks, which were super rad back in the day. Back in my day, everyone's different, but like the wooden ramps on the blacktop they're pretty interesting parks. Like a lot of cool hips, a lot of spines, like not so much mini ramps, more ramps, like in between mini ramp and vert ramp, like 9 foot, 10 foot. But anyways, surfed on the way up too. So like did all that with my grandpa, and I don't know. And I ended up skating more than surfing and snowboarding. Snowboarding's hard to get to because of the mountains. Ended up bouncing around as a little kid, moving around all over, lived inland for a while. It's like skating, there we go, it's right there in front of you. If you want to skate,
do it every day.
You can even skate in your house if you're that lazy. Like, if I don't want to leave, I'll skate right there, So, I just gravitated towards skating and moved back to San Clemente when I was 19, started surfing a bunch, fell in love with that. Skating hurts. I got bone cadavers and my left leg, and like, I don't know, just skating hurts.
Sure.
Don't have to explain it. And so now I'm super in love with surfing, try to do it all the time, and I think we're on to one of their stories.
Well, real quick on that too, because your dad's Christian Fletcher.
Yep.
Huge impact on the surfing world, right? Your uncle Nathan, I'm under the impression that he actually stepped away from surfing and went into motocross because he was like, man, I'm not dealing with this pressure and this bullshit.
A lot of pressure.
Did you ever feel that? Do you think that had a part in you with going skating?
I never really felt too much pressure. I just put my head down and went and did stuff. It's funny because there's a contest in Oregon. It's like a sick contest. It's called the Trifecta, and it was at 3 different Dreamland skate parks. Dreamland skate parks are the gnarliest parks there is. There's the one there was one in Lincoln City, and then it went to West Lynn, and then Tigard. So I grew up going on these trips called Next Invasion Tours, and we would do, it was a cancer fundraiser, like I don't know exactly how you would put it. I didn't go to much school, so I use as much words as I can. But anyways, so I would work at those contests as a kid, like serving hot dogs and chips, like selling hot dogs and chips to raise money for Mike Rogers' Grind for Life.
Right.
And so that was super rad. went on all the trips, but wasn't skating the actual contest. I was watching the guys skating it, like, and then I was skating afterwards, and then people were like, fuck, you should skate this sometime. I was like, no, I didn't. Hated contests, don't like people watching. And then eventually my dad was like, hey, let's go trifecta. And I was like, whatever, like, we'll go check it out. And then I ended up skating it, and then I got third place at Lincoln City, second place at West Lynn, and then tigered. I always thought that park was very weird, and I was skating good in practice, and then the contest came. I was the first person, first heat, first run, dropped in, fell on the first trick, chucked my board over the fence, and just hopped out of the skate park and didn't come back. Went to McDonald's.
The answer was like, well, that was the hot dog guy, so I hope you enjoyed it.
So that's when I was like pretty much officially for myself. That's when I realized, like, okay, like I could maybe do this. That's when I was like that. And then I started going on trips I started getting boards from Flip, hanging out with Ardo. He was taking me skating pools every weekend for like 2 years. And then I ended up getting on Element and then traveling around with them for a while. And now I'm here at Arbor and made my own board shape, which is pretty fun because I like surfing, and skateboards are like, there's a lot of weird stuff about skateboards people don't know. Like, your board has 7 layers of wood. Everyone knows that. But
I didn't know that.
the glue,
I've
really?
seen that, yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, the glue.
I might have known that when I was younger.
The glue
Yeah,
cure is
maybe me too.
different. So like your board's always different. They stack them in rows of 7 while they're drying, and like more concave, more rocker in some of the boards. The holes on the trucks sometimes they're weird lined up. Like not everything's perfect. Like a surfboard also, and I tell my friends that surf that too. It's kind of funny. But anyways, it's skating comes back to surfing. Like,
How old were you? How old were you when you did
man.
those contests?
I was 19 when I did
sick.
my first trifecta, and
Yeah.
I grew up going to them constantly, serving hot dogs.
Yeah.
Do you think that if
Yeah.
you'd only done like surf contests, if you would kind of have like, 'cause you have a passion for surfing now,
Yeah.
do you think you maybe would have been like, I'm not into it as much? Like, you kind of almost had to take that path to be like, oh cool, now I'm back, and I kind of like, I love it because it's this thing.
I don't know, like, I'm sure I would have loved it if I was like going to the beach all the time, but I just was
That wasn't
going to
your
the
program.
skate park, and I was psyched, and I was skating, nothing else. I wanted to ride dirt bikes, and
It's awesome.
then I skated, and I was like, I just want to just go try to go as fast and as big as possible, and just pretend you're on a motocross track, kind of, I guess.
It's worked out, you
Yeah.
know? And, you know, Connor, like, switching gears a little bit, like, you kind of developed and came up through really the peak industry of, like, the mid-aughties, you know? Like, celebrated amateur career, like, a lot of sponsors, like, contracts associated with it. And as we said in the first segment, like, we're really, even outside of the contest scene, like one of the most celebrated junior surfers from a style and power standpoint, right? And you come from Santa Barbara, you have your younger brother Parker as a sparring partner, you've got Rincon in your backyard, you got the likes of Tom Kern and Bobby Martinez and Dane Reynolds, like really developed in sort of one of the most potent surfing regions imaginable, qualified for the tour. And we talked a little bit about it, you know, like you're like, I'm here to surf my best, and this is just a pathway to surfing my best. Talk to us a little bit about that process. You know, when you were coming up, were you self-aware of like, oh man, like I've got it pretty good. I'm going on these boat trips, I got sponsorships, the contest results are coming, or was it just, I got my head down, I'm trying hard, and I'm trying to keep up with my generation?
It was a little of both, probably. I mean, I definitely knew I was living the dream for sure. I mean, I think I went on my first boat trip with Red Bull to Indo on like the Indies 4 when I was 15 or something, you know? It's like, what the hell? My parents were driving me down to drop me off at Red Bull, and they're like pulling up pictures of the boat, and like, holy shit. And I'm like, Mick Fanning and
Yeah,
Adriano
that boat was
and
so nice.
Jamie, I don't even know. I can't, like Michelle Perez, all these, Julian Wilson, you know? It's like so crazy. And it was me and Chloe and Evan Geiselman. And
Sure, yeah.
I guess when I was growing up too, there was a lot of really good juniors. It was
course,
like Andrew Doheny and Evan Geiselman and Chloe and like Luke Davis. There's like a whole pack. I'm probably forgetting a bunch of people.
100%, yeah.
So it was super gnarly. I mean, and we definitely, Kolohe was kind of probably the chosen one of like, oh, he's the next world title contender, you know, and I was kind of like a little bit more off the radar up in Santa Barbara, but I definitely was pretty focused at the same time. I was like, okay, cool, I know like what I want to do. I want to just, you know, keep getting better at surfing and try to figure out how to make a living out of it. And at that point, yeah, like get on the tour and stuff. So yeah, I mean, it was pretty, looking back on it now though, at the same time, it's like, whoa, it was pretty crazy, the shit that was going on when I was
place,
growing
right
up,
time,
you know,
kind
yeah.
of stuff, yeah.
And compared to what's going on in the surf world now, I mean, it's so wild. And not that I took it for granted in any way, because I definitely didn't. Like, I was having time of my life and knew it was something really special that I had to cherish, but I definitely was focused on like, all right, cool, I want to make this happen, you know, like I didn't blow it, which is good because I knew of people or friends that went well, so I didn't want to do that. But now it's crazy, like here in the surf world today, I'm like looking back at what I was doing 15 years ago, or about 15 years ago. I'm like, wow, that was just, you just thought it would get bigger, you know, or maybe, I don't know, or like
you
keep
never
going.
think it's going to dip.
Didn't think it was going to like nosedive or something.
Well, the off the radar thing's such a good point, right? Because Santa Barbara, for all its sort of the legend associated with the location in terms of the surfers like Brownie and Tom and, you know, Kim and the waves, it is away from Velcro Valley. Like, it's not Orange County, right? And we've talked about this a lot, like, you know, Kolohe and John were compared a lot when they were younger, and I remember very vividly when they qualified around the same time. And as you said, like, the marketing around someone like Kolohe was like, he's absolutely going to win the world title, and if he doesn't win it his rookie season, it's a failure. Yeah. And John, by comparison, was always in the spotlight, but I remember the year he qualified, he broke his back, he snuck on the tour at the midway point. Everyone, all the pundits were like, well, I hope he makes it to pipe. We don't know if he can surf anything else, you know? And being a little bit out of that limelight helps so much, and being outside of the radar. So having a home base like Santa Barbara and having someone, we've talked about the found family and the biological family, a brother like Parker as a sparring partner must be so advantageous to not being complacent, being like, I surf good enough, I deserve all these things. It's probably like, no, I have to work harder and harder and harder. Yeah. Is that fair? Or?
Oh, for sure. No, I never thought I surfed good, really. I always just wanted to get better. I was like, I don't know, I'm all right, but I never was like, I rip. Like, but also I think that was part of growing up. Like, obviously with the brother, you're pushing each other, you know, so you almost don't even notice. All of a sudden you're like, whoa, we got way better, because you're just every day surfing together, like, oh, he did that, oh, I want to do that, you know?
Yeah.
So it's kind of like that real natural progression. And then probably the other thing too is like where we grew up, you kind of had to have that more humble, like grounded mentality, because there's always people kind of keeping you in check. Yeah. Because you wanted to be able to surf, you know, like the spots that are kind of more localized, and you know, I think there's sort of that still like old school sense of like hierarchy in the lineups, and just because you were some ripper, you know, like doing contests, winning some contests, it's like it doesn't mean shit here, you know, back of the line. So I think that like the combination of those things definitely played into the way I grew up as a surfer, and just kind of how I saw the surf world, and it kept me pretty grounded. Like I didn't get the confidence that I should have had, because I was kind of dealing with some of those things of like, oh, no. But yeah, definitely always kept me pretty grounded and humble. I never thought I was that cool, for sure.
It's interesting though, right? Because you see, I'm going to generalize, you see kind of two different types of surfers when they make it to the tour. You get kind of the kids on both men's and women's who are like very hyped. They make it and they're like, yeah, I should win a world title, I'm good enough. And then you get the other people who make it and they're like, I have to work on this, I got to work on that, I got to work on that. And you look at someone like Mick Fanning, like arguably one of the most hyped surfers to ever make the tour. He came on tour and was like, I cannot backside barrel ride to save my life. And he'd spend 6 weeks at Chopu making it better. Or Adriano de Souza is another one, like qualified, and he was like, had a high strike rate on aerials. And he's like, I need to develop a power game. So he like spent time on that. A few years later, he wins Bell. It's like, so that kind of humility, I think consistently is like, just because you make the tour, just because you got magazine covers is like, dude, you're not ready. Like, that tour is much more radical than you think it is, and you have to keep working.
For sure, yeah. I mean, I think most things you do in life come down to your work ethic of, you know, the time and the energy and the passion that you're willing to put into whatever you're doing. You know, that's how you're gonna get anywhere in anything. Yeah. And kind of have to be able to apply that. You know, obviously there's freak talents, but it doesn't really happen by accident.
Yeah.
I don't think.
Nate, speaking of kind of degrees of separation from, I mentioned Velcro Valley, but like Orange County, right? You know, you grew up on the Central Coast, which, as far as kind of professional surfing in the 90s and aughties is concerned, may as well have been on Mars, you know? So you actually had the space to develop who you wanted to be and how you wanted to surf away from really a lot of oversight in a way. And we were actually having this conversation on a personal trip last week, and we were like, man, that Volcom team of lifers at that point of time, you know, Alex Gray and Killian Garland and yourself, like some radical surfers in there that could do both, because you competed a little bit when you were younger, but you eventually found your niche in this free surfing world. And you know, whether it was Kai Neville films or Joe G films, the projects that you were involved in consistently stand out parts, even though you didn't have maybe the same amount of hype that some of your counterparts did, you know? Can you tell us a little bit about just the career decision of going, you know what, maybe contest surfing exclusively isn't for me and I might have something in this space?
Yeah, I mean, that started very early. I was never successful in contests in the sense, like, I feel like maybe like, what was it, NSSA days, I did okay, but I was never like very confident in much, like, especially when it came down to contests. And I really hated, like, you know, when I would feel good and be confident, I really believed in my surfing, but I really hated the aspect of like that fighting in the water and like fighting for waves and all that stuff. It just was never me. I was never that hungry for contests, and I appreciate all the kind words, but I just, like, even looking back on all of the so-called accomplishments, like I really steered clear of contests once I hit whatever age, like 16 or 17. And then that was in an era when magazines were so healthy and thriving. And I lived with Greg Browning for a while. Down at, like, right out of high school, I moved to Hermosa Beach, and he was, as we all know, or hopefully remember, he was like such an amazing free surfer back in the day.
How cool is Greg? He's such a good guy.
Yeah, and he was so amazing. Him and his, they just let me into their house. They're like, yeah, move down here.
Sick, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and so I moved down there, and he kind of helped me, like, get on the path of, like, getting to know photographers. And so again, like, when magazines were super strong, I just saw that as like, oh my gosh, that is such an amazing accomplishment to, like, go shoot a photo and then it prints in a magazine. Like, that blew my mind when I was a kid, because I grew up just staring at magazines, and then, like, the idea that I could be in one, blah, 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 all that cliche stuff. But I was just like, so anyways, so then I feel like I had, like, a pretty long path where I got to be in magazines. And it always was good, but, you know, surf magazines was like, I could do a fake ass air and like ended up as a photo and blah, blah, blah. And then fast forward X amount of years, I picked up new sponsors or whatever, and I got other opportunities where I started to get into films and started filming a lot, and that was when it really clicked for me, because it was fucking real. It was like that, if you put together a clip, that, like, completely overruled over a photo, in my opinion. And I hadn't even gotten to that point. So I feel like I got, like, a second wind when I started getting opportunities for films. And that was, like, that to me was the craziest. And I worked so hard on films for so long, because they've meant so much to me, because they were everything that got me into surfing. I had a background where I look like a pretty cliche surfer, but I came from a inland town. Like, I don't feel like I was supposed to be a surfer, really. And films just meant so much to me, so it was really cool to like get to be a part of the films I got to be a part of. That was big.
It's so interesting you talk about making the move to Hermosa Beach at one point, because this is a conversation that comes up on the podcast a lot, and it's the idea that over the last decade or two, right, in certain parts of the world, if you kind of have talent when you're younger, people tend to, I won't say converge, but people tend to move
Seems
to
fitting.
One, I know, but I don't want to bastardize it. People tend to move to one spot, right? Like in America, almost anywhere in America right now, you could say, any kid that's got talent around 12 years old, parents sell the farm, they buy a Sprinter van, they move to San Clemente. And I get it, right? Because the talent in San Clemente is so high, lowers is a hugely rippable wave. And similar in Australia for years, right? People go like, that kid's got talent, it's got to move to the Gold Coast.
Yeah.
That's the industry, that's where the photographers are, and there's absolutely benefit to that. But something that is lost in that is that uniqueness and regional approach to wave riding, right? That we probably saw a lot more of in the 80s and the 90s. And it starts to get a little bit homogenized, right? Like, you stayed true to Santa Barbara. Like, you were in Hermosa Beach, but now you're back on the Central Coast. Like, you came from a skating background. Like, all of you have awesome surf styles to watch, but they're certainly not cookie cutter. You know, for someone like yourself, Nate, I wonder how long, and whether that was even a motivation to move to Hermosa Beach, if you felt the pressure to be like, I have to be down here for my career, or if eventually you're like, you know what, like, the things that made me the surfer I am, which are the things that I think people find valuable, are actually the things at home.
Oh, 100%, yeah. I mean, I only went to Hermosa Beach because it was really funny. I graduated high school, and I was like, explorer, what was it, like NSSA, like
Yeah.
pretty low on the totem pole champ or whatever. Like, I wasn't going anywhere in surfing. So I signed up for classes at the community college.
Right.
And I went, I like did pretty minimal, and I did like Tuesday and Thursday, right? And it was the first week of school. Made it through Tuesday, and I was like, "Ooh, okay, I think I can do this." And then randomly Wednesday night, I got a call from, it was like through Greg, a photographer, was like, "Hey, we're going to Mexico on Friday. Can you go?" And I was like, "I think I could go." And then I like listened to whatever, and or whatever. I was like, "Okay, I'll go to. I shouldn't do that trip. I should go to school." And I made it through one class on Thursday. So I made it through, like, I did a total of like whatever, very minimal. And it just made me go, okay, that's my path. And then when I came home from that, I was like, okay, maybe Hermosa is the right thing. And so I dabbled in living down south, but like you're saying, it was so far from it just wasn't me.
Sure.
You know, like it's just not my personality. It was very cool, like, to be around sponsors and all that stuff, but in the end, it really wasn't me. And when I moved home, I was like, yeah, I guess I didn't make it as a surfer. And it was really weird because I didn't move home because I'm like, oh yeah, I already did whatever. It was like, I literally was like, yeah, I just can't live doing that and chasing that because it's just not my lifestyle. So I think it was really natural that I moved back home, and then whatever followed, I don't know.
Question for all three of you, so I'll start with Grayson. Answers, boys. Do you think, you know, what we just talked about, because you guys all have such unique stories, do you think that that is something that's going to be showcased and kind of teased out through Convergence, the film? Because I think that's what makes things so cool, right? Is like, there's a commonality, but it's not three people who are exactly the same. It's three people with different paths. Has that been your experience so far?
Yeah, I mean, we're doing this. It said it's around 45 minutes. We're about to do this for like 4 days straight.
That's right.
So
That's a good
let's get
point.
it going. We got some cold beers to crack into, hopefully some waves, and I can't wait to watch these guys rip.
Can't wait to watch you rip.
Oh, thanks. Nate
ripped
that wave today. I was all psyched. I was like watching you over the shoulder the way. I was like, look at her.
Dude, I appreciate all the hype. What if somebody finally sees it and they're like, that was cool?
That was one of the coolest things.
Good job.
That was one of the coolest moments I've ever had in the water. I'm not just saying
that's
that.
amazing,
no, it was sick. I watched you surf for so long, and then the wave's still going. I'm popping over the shoulder, watching you. Like, it was really rad to see. You don't see waves that long.
Yeah, that was a long
Even in
wave.
Indonesia.
Yeah.
Sorry, my voice is.
Another 805.
Yeah, but anyways, off to you guys. Question. I don't know if that answered it.
No, I thought it was great.
No, and I'm sure Perry will do a great job in, you know, translating all that. But Might have to be like a 4-hour movie.
That could be
to
like
really
the
do
director's
it.
cut. Like
Yeah.
only a
Let's
few
just
of us
go to
get to
Indo.
watch.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
Great
And
point.
Perry and Dana are ripping it up, so
I love it.
Yeah.
the direction's going good.
Yeah.
Totally.
We're going to take one more ad break to get a word in from our sponsors, and we'll be right back.
Thanks, sponsors.
All right, we're back. We're here at the lineup with Grayson, Fletcher, Nate Tyler, and Connor Coffin.
And the fire.
And the fire. I feel like every time someone tunes back in, the fire's gotten bigger.
Yeah.
It's getting
We're
We
just
can
trying to
fix
get
it.
the flames to go across our face.
That's exactly
so they can't
right.
see us.
So you three, you guys are going to be premiering in Convergence on August 3rd at the US Open, Perry Gerkshaw documentary. Very exciting. We've had a pretty interesting cycle of seasons in the Northern Hemisphere. We've had an extended La Nina. There's rumors that we're moving into El Nino. You know, looking beyond Convergence, what do you guys see for yourselves for the rest of the year? What are the plans? Nate, for yourself, you know, in addition to completing the film, like how do you see the rest of 2023 playing out for you personally and professionally?
I don't know. I guess I actually have not thought of that. I definitely want to finish strong on this film, which I'm sure we all will. I'm fortunate I have great opportunities with my artwork, so I'll be focusing a lot on that. My family and I are renovating a little tiny house that we just got. Not like technically a tiny house, but a little beach shack place. So yeah, I mean, I'll be really busy, but probably not overly exciting stuff.
Yep.
That's exciting.
Yeah, I guess it is
I
kind of
think it is.
exciting.
Yeah.
And Grayson, in the break, we were talking about traveling a little bit.
Yeah.
What are you thinking for the rest of the year?
I'm gonna finish up this part with Chris Gregson for Thrasher, and I want to go to Indonesia again. So I'm gonna go back over there again, California. So maybe go over there in August. I can't wait to go on this trip tomorrow. It's gonna be a quick one, but it's gonna be a sick one, and that's where I'm at. I don't really got no plans. I did the whole contest, grind, skate trip, dirtbag skater, sleep on the cement trip forever, and just been cruising, so trying to go surf and hang out and have fun.
It's so interesting, right? Because you're in such a unique position as you get a lot of supporters, sponsorship-wise, professional skater, professional surfer. When you say things like, oh yeah, I want to go to Indonesia for a bit and basically just surf, your sponsors who are like, yo, you are a skater, they're cool with that.
I don't really tell them. I just go, and I just hope they're on board with me. But now Bali has a super rad skate park in Uluwatu. Yeah. It's actually, this is where I've been at. I'm just like, I should just move there. Their skate park, somehow, it's insane. Their skate park's better than anything in California. So I'm just like, why would I live in Orange County, crowded, crazy place when I was like, Indo's the spot, warm water, barrels, sick skate park. Still trying to come out of a barrel.
But
I'm still working on that one.
It does seem like that, you know, to crib a phrase from your partner Ruka, like the balance of opposites with you, right?
Surf,
skate, moto, like they all actually make you better, like, right? Because they give you that approach, and you're like, yeah, cool. Like I learned something from surfing, I applied it to skating, vice versa, moto, whatever it is.
Exactly. So yeah, I'm pretty stoked. Ruka does surfing, skating. 805 does surfing and skating. So
very cool.
There you are.
And Connor, we talked a little bit about this through the podcast and just how, and it's not a knock on any surfer that's out there, but a lot of them have to focus on one specific discipline. I'm a big wave surfer, I'm a free surfer, I'm a contest surfer. Your career has sort of spanned almost every discipline, you know, and you had an amazingly celebrated free surfing career when you were coming up, at the same time qualifying for the show. We talked about our previous podcast here, 2019 or whatever it was. We're like, oh, I just want to surf my best. I don't know about the world title. Then a couple of years later, you're in the hunt at an event for the world title. You now off tour. There's the opportunity to compete on the Challenger Series, but also there's also the opportunity to do films like Convergence and other kind of projects. Like, where do you see your professional career kind of going, you know, through the rest of 23 and maybe over the next few years? Are you going to try to qualify, or are you going to focus on more free surfing? What do you think?
I guess I've been kind of trying to figure that out. So it's a good question, and I don't know if I quite have the answer yet. Maybe I'll find it this week on our trip.
You're gonna come visit me in Indo.
Oh yeah,
August.
I just missed you in Indo.
Oh.
But yeah, I mean, thanks, Dave. You said too many nice things about me, but I mean, I just love surfing and being in the water and traveling, and any way I can do that and keep it going, and I'm gonna be stoked. So I guess I've just kind of been trying to figure out what the next 5 years from my surf world will look like. But I went down and did the couple of challenges in Australia and did real shitty, so that wasn't exactly a great start to getting back on tour. But we're going on this trip this week, and yeah, I definitely want to. I just feel like I haven't really traveled and surfed good waves much, which is probably why we all start doing this in the first place. So
Right.
I'm pretty psyched to do some fun trips, and riding for Body Glove with Parker for wetsuits. Like, we're gonna have some pretty rad opportunities to do some trips together for them. So I'm really excited about that. And like with Salty Crew, just going to hang with like Benji and Matt and all those guys, and different people all over the world that have these sick little zones where they're fishing and surfing and diving.
Yeah.
Like, that stuff all gets me really excited. So yeah, I don't know, I have a lot of interests and passions and stuff that evolve around the ocean, and just excited to.
'Cause how old
get
are
to
you now?
keep doing them. 29.
29.
I turned 30 in a couple weeks, I think.
Well, happy early birthday.
Connor's getting a new spark. It's coming on
Well,
heavy. Watch.
But you know, it's interesting, right? Because every single one of you, and this is a big topic that comes up on this podcast all the time, like, surfing is a community that is obsessed with the cult of youth. Who's the next 12-year-old? Can we pay that person? You know, I'm serious,
Yeah.
right? And it's so interesting because if you look across the spectrum of kind of the best performers, they typically don't do their best 10-year run of surfing until like 25, 35, much more so than like 15, 25, right? But the industry and everything is kind of geared towards like, let's get that kid in front of everyone now. And by the time they're 25, they're burnt. It's like, you're not even seeing their best surfing.
Yeah, it's
like,
it's almost like you get like the what if, you know, like how
100%.
good could they be? And then if you didn't hit that, it's like, oh, you failed.
Well, there's a lot
Next,
of
how
there's a lot
good
of
could
obstacles.
this kid be? Yeah, there's so much
100%.
shit that can go wrong.
Hurdles. I blew a few.
Yeah, no, it's funny. Like,
Who's
even
amongst us?
I mean, I've been sucking in contests for like a year and a half. I can't remember the last heat I made, but at the same time, when I go out and surf, like at home this year, I was like, I think I'm doing like the best surfing I've ever done, probably.
Yeah.
But I can't make a fucking heat, so I don't know. It's just funny. Surfing's weird like that.
Everything goes in circles, Connor.
Yeah.
You'll be laying down power cars.
Well, Nate, what do you think about that too? Because you're slightly older than our colleagues. But I'd say you probably did your best surfing in that range, 25 to 35.
I honestly feel like I almost did it like. Yeah, I guess technically you're correct, but like I feel like my best surfing was when I was able to be making films.
Yeah, right.
And
Opportunity.
Yeah, like I traveled with people that I never dreamed of traveling with, and I mean, like, if you watched all of the clips, it was amazing. They put me up there like on par with those people, but it was crazy to like rise to the occasion because you're traveling with surfers like that.
Right.
And it was weird though. I think it was like 26 to like 32 just felt like that was when I was working on a lot of films. It was almost 33 or whatever, and it was just like I had such crazy opportunities and got to rise to so many occasions that yeah, I totally agree. I think that it does come later when you're, and I think it's really mental when you're later
Right.
too. Like you just get more confident. And
Well, you kind of find probably like what feels good and what
Totally.
you want to do, and then you
Yeah.
kind of like lean into it more.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or I don't know. That's
No,
what it
100%.
would maybe
thing.
look like from the outside, or feels like
Yeah.
to me.
The
Yeah.
confidence thing is big too, like especially with skating. There's so many surfing. I don't look at it that way because I skate, but there's so many tricks in skating, and there's so many tricks that are like frowned upon, or like
yeah.
there's so
cool.
many tricks that are lame. Yeah, and there's like so many tricks that people want to tell you that they think you should be doing. And yeah, so that's similar with skating too. Like you just
Totally.
gotta put your head down. Like I started realizing lately, you know what? I don't care if if these people think these tricks are lame. I don't care what my board shape looks like.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like
Yeah.
so that's where I've been figuring myself out too. Is like I'm finally doing now what I want to do and what makes me happy. And there's a very few selected tricks that I like to do in skating that make me feel happy myself, and because they feel good to me. And it's a small handful. And now I'm like, you know what? I don't care. I don't need to do other tricks I don't like to do or I don't enjoy. I'll stick to my tricks, and yeah, same thing.
I'll tag that with a note of objective opinion, though, right? Because Nate, you're a very humble dude. You're from, as we talked about, not the center of the surf media world, but from team managers to your colleagues in the Joe G films, or the Volcom films, the Kai Neville films, or the Channel I, whatever it is, to a person, they said, Nate Tyler is at the very top. Like every single time, every single session, you can debate me on this, that's fine.
Well,
I've been out there when you've been filming with these guys that you're talking about, and it's like you watch them and think, these are some of the best surfers in the world. Nate Tyler's here. It was awesome to watch you do your thing. It's still awesome to watch you do your thing. And guys, a real pleasure to talk to you and about this film. I can't wait to see it. Convergence coming out. To close out, we typically do a lightning round. Connor has answered these a few times. So what we're going to do is a condensed lightning round. No, you're answering. We're going to do 3 questions for each of you to answer as quickly as you can. And just for operational sake, we'll go Grayson, Nate, Connor.
Perfect. I'll keep mine shorter this time.
No, you talk as long as you want, man.
I ramble.
First question.
Yep.
Grayson, if you could only surf one wave for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Well, at the moment, the wedge, but I'd like to go try and catch a couple waves out of pipe. So maybe it'll change.
Nate.
Oh, sorry, same question.
Same question.
Macaronis.
Macaronis. I've got your answers from last time. Right?
Really? Maybe it's changed. It's cloud rig.
Where?
Cloud rig?
That was one of your answers. Next question for Grayson. Who is the worst person to share the lineup with?
Probably me. I don't stop talking. I take a lot of waves. I mean, we're at lowers where everyone does, you know.
Yeah.
Part of the pack.
Is that a good
Nate?
answer?
Gosh, I don't know. Entitled humans?
That's a great answer. Connor?
The tour.
That's close to what you said last time.
As a whole? No.
That's a common answer. Just stay away from those guys and girls.
They're at lowers all the time.
Oh, man.
Last
one.
same answer.
Yeah.
Finish this sentence. Grayson. I will next achieve a state of happiness by...
Getting barreled at Padang this summer, or our summer.
Yes. Nate?
Never having to get the first wave at the Surf Ranch Pro ever again.
Great answer. Connor?
Sitting here, hanging out.
Yeah, that's really close
Yeah,
to
that's
last
nice,
time.
Connor.
That's beautiful. Gentlemen, thank you so much. Thanks to our listeners who wrote in the questions. Convergence by Perry Girkshaw premieres on August 3rd at the US Open. And guys, I think we're going to get to do this again around then. So I really appreciate it. This was a lot of fun.
Got to thank Slay Dog.
Right?
Right?
Thank you.
And thank you to 805. Thanks to the Beers
man.
Boys.
Thanks for having us.
Yep. Thanks Surf Ranch 805, Slater, Connor, Nate.
Oh, I just almost burned my hair off, I think.